It is the first week of January, you had bought one of those beautiful, like incredibly expensive leather-bound planners.
Oh, yeah. We have all been there.
Right. You set your phone alarm for 5:30 a.m., and you were just riding this massive, intoxicating wave of motivation. You tell yourself, this is the year, this time is actually different.
And for a few days, it usually is.
It is. But then day 14 rolls around. It's dark outside, it's pouring rain, you slept terribly the night before, and when that alarm goes off, it feels like a physical assault.
Yep, the reality check.
Exactly. You hit snooze, you roll over, and that expensive planner just stays closed on the nightstand. So, welcome to today's deep dive into the habit architecture.
It's great to be here. And, that specific moment rolling over and ignoring the alarm, that is usually where a really toxic cycle of self-blame begins.
Go 100%.
You immediately assume you just lack discipline. You tell yourself you don't have the inherent character or, the drive to follow through on your goals.
That you're just lazy.
Right. But from a neurological standpoint, that failure has absolutely nothing to do with personal strength. It's a predictable biological reality.
Wow, really? So it's not just a personal failing?
Not at all. It is such a statistical certainty that if you look at data from fitness tracking apps like Strava, for instance, they literally call the second week of January Quitter's Day.
Quitter's Day, that is brutal.
It is, but millions of people all across the globe, they hit the exact same physiological wall at the exact same time.
Which tells us that relying on motivation it's a trap. Because motivation is an emotion, right?
Yeah.
And emotions are inherently volatile.
Exactly.
You wouldn't build a house on a foundation that, changes its shape depending on the weather.
No, of course not.
So the mission of this deep dive today is to figure out how to stop relying on willpower. We need to start engineering a mechanical, systems-based life, a way to make the actions you actually want to take happen on autopilot.
And to get to that autopilot state, we really have to look under the hood at why willpower biologically betrays us in the first place.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why does it betray us?
Well, the human brain is this absolute marvel of evolution. But by design, it is relentlessly lazy.
Lazy.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. It makes up only about 2% of your total body weight, yet it consumes roughly 20% of your daily energy expenditure.
Wow, 20%.
Right. The part of your brain responsible for conscious decision-making, that's the prefrontal cortex, is a massive metabolic drain. Every single time you consciously deliberate over a choice, you are burning expensive mental calories.
So your brain is just trying to survive the day.
Exactly. To prevent you from collapsing from mental exhaustion by mid-morning, your brain developed a survival mechanism. It takes any repetitive behavior and offloads it to a deeper, older region called the basal ganglia.
The basal ganglia.
Yeah, that is the part of your brain that runs your autopilot. And it requires almost zero energy to function.
Wait, so willpower isn't like a muscle I can just flex and make stronger through sheer grit? Because the common advice out there is always just, try harder.
I know, and it's terrible advice.
Right, so if conscious decision-making is a metabolic drain, it sounds a lot more like, I don't know, a smartphone battery.
Oh, that battery analogy is incredibly accurate.
Like you wake up, it's at 100%. But every active choice you make is like opening another app that just constantly runs in the background.
That's exactly it. And most people drastically underestimate how many apps they have open at any given time. The sheer volume of choices we make is just staggering.
I can imagine.
We make over 226 decisions each day, just about food alone.
Just food. 226.
Just food. Am I hungry? What should I eat? Is that healthy? Should I add salt? And then when you factor in everything else, what to wear, which route to drive, how to diplomatically word a stressful email, you are looking at up to 35,000 total choices a day.
35,000 choices.
Right.
That is insane.
It creates severe decision fatigue. So by 8:00 p.m., your mental battery is just blinking red. You don't sit on the couch eating junk food at night because you suddenly stopped caring about your long-term health.
Right.
You do it because your prefrontal cortex is completely depleted. You literally lack the cognitive power to override your basal ganglia.
Wow. Okay, so if the brain is constantly offloading tasks to the basal ganglia to save battery, how much of our day is actually governed by our conscious mind?
Well, studies suggest nearly 45% of our daily behaviors are entirely unconscious habits.
Almost half. So we are basically just sleepwalking through half of our lives.
It's essentially, yes.
We think we're making choices, but we're really just running on invisible scripts.
Yeah, and because your brain automates these behaviors to preserve energy, it protects them fiercely.
Makes sense.
The only way to rewrite that programming is to shine a very bright light on those hidden neurological loops. And it all comes down to a three-part biological algorithm:
Okay, what is it?
a cue, a routine, and a reward.
Cue, routine, reward. Got it.
The cue triggers the brain to initiate the behavior. The routine is the physical or emotional action itself. And the reward tells the basal ganglia, hey, this felt good, let's remember this sequence for next time.
So bad habits form fast because of that reward.
Exactly. Destructive habits form incredibly fast because they prioritize an immediate short-term dopamine hit over your long-term goals. Your brain, especially when it's tired or stressed out, just wants fast relief.
But the problem is we almost always misdiagnose what our cues actually are.
All the time.
Like, I was reading about this guy, let's call him David. David has this habit of eating a massive pastry every single day at 3 p.m. in the office break room.
Right.
And if you ask him why, he'll say, oh, I just have a sweet tooth, or he thinks he lacks discipline, or maybe his blood sugar is low.
But if you actually audit his behavior like a neutral observer, a completely different reality emerges.
How so?
Well, David doesn't crave pastries at 3 p.m. on Saturdays or Sundays, right?
Praise at home.
In the office, the craving only happens after he finishes 2 hours of intense, draining spreadsheet work and right before he has to lead a highly stressful team meeting. So the true cue isn't physical hunger at all. The cue is the emotional transition between deep work and social stress. Wow.
Okay.
The routine is walking to the break room and eating the pastry. And the reward he's getting isn't physical nourishment. It's temporary emotional numbing.
The sugar provides that fast dopamine hit.
Exactly. It temporarily soothes his anxiety about the upcoming meeting.
So to figure out our own hidden loops, how do we run that kind of audit on ourselves?
You utilize a simple tool called the daily scorecard. The whole objective is to map out your automated actions to find solid anchors in your day.
Anchors, okay.
Yeah, you take a notebook and you log every single thing you do from the moment you wake up until noon. And I mean the microscopic things.
Like brushing my teeth.
Even smaller. Waking up, hitting snooze, turning over, checking the phone in bed, walking to the bathroom, turning on the cold water tap, turning on the coffee maker.
Oh, wow.
You are hunting for the physical actions you do every single day without fail, completely on autopilot.
But honestly, writing down every single mundane thing I do, especially tracking every time I, mindlessly scroll social media or eat something I shouldn't, that just sounds miserable.
It can definitely feel that way at first.
It sounds like a recipe for a massive guilt trip. How do you neutrally observe a bad habit like that without just beating yourself up?
You have to, fundamentally drop the shame. And not just for self-esteem reasons, but for actual biological reasons.
Right.
Self-punishment actively backfires. When you beat yourself up over eating a pastry or scrolling online, you generate intense emotional stress.
Okay.
And what does your brain do when it experiences stress?
It wants a reward.
Right. It immediately seeks out a fast dopamine hit to soothe the discomfort. So that stress actually becomes a brand new cue for the exact bad habit you were trying to break.
Oh, wow. So you trap yourself.
You trap yourself in a self-perpetuating biological loop where the guilt over the habit triggers the habit again. You have to treat the daily scorecard like you are a scientist observing a test subject in a lab. You are just collecting neutral data.
Okay, so if I can neutrally map out my internal triggers, what's stopping the physical environment around me from just overriding my good intentions?
That is a very valid question.
Because I can know that stress makes me want cookies.
Right.
But if a box of cookies is sitting right on my kitchen counter, I probably need them anyway.
And that brings us to the external side of the equation, which is known as choice architecture.
Choice architecture.
Yes. Environments make decisions for us constantly, often before our conscious brain even boots up. Retailers and tech companies are absolute masters of this. Have you ever wondered why supermarkets always place essential items like milk and eggs at the very back of the store?
Oh, because they want me to walk past everything else.
Exactly. It forces you to navigate through brightly lit aisles of highly processed, highly profitable snack foods. They are actively draining your decision-making battery before you even reach the dairy section.
That is so sneaky.
Tech companies use the exact same architectural principles. Infinite scroll removes the physical cue to stop reading. Red urgency badges trigger your brain's evolutionary threat response, demanding your attention.
But here's where it gets really interesting, because we can flip that, right? We can use choice architecture to manipulate our own behavior.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember seeing this massive experiment Google ran internally called Project M&M.
Yes, that's a classic example.
They had this problem with employees eating way too much free candy in the break rooms. And they didn't hand out pamphlets on nutrition. They didn't mandate a diet.
No, they didn't do any of that.
All they did was take the chocolate candies out of clear glass jars and put them into opaque ceramic containers.
Right.
Just making the chocolate slightly less visible, meaning the visual cortex wasn't constantly triggered to alert the basal ganglia. That saved something like 3.1 million calories over a few weeks.
It's incredible.
No motivational speeches, zero willpower required, just a tiny tweak to the physical environment.
Which perfectly illustrates the concept of activation energy, or what we like to call the friction dial.
The friction dial. I like that.
Remember, your brain wants to conserve energy at all costs, so it naturally takes the path of least resistance. You can manipulate that tendency by adjusting the friction dial in your environment.
So for bad habits.
For destructive habits, you manufacture high friction. You turn the dial way up. If your habit is watching too much television after work, literally take the batteries out of the remote and put them in a drawer in another room.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Exactly. When you sit on the couch, your brain realizes it has to get up, walk to the drawer, retrieve the batteries, and install them. Suddenly, the energy cost of watching TV is just too high, and your brain looks for an easier alternative.
And for positive habits, we want to turn the friction dial down to absolute zero.
Precisely.
It reminds me of a strategy popularized by the researcher Sean Aker. He wanted to practice the guitar every day, but his guitar was kept in its case inside his closet.
Right.
It literally only took 20 seconds to get the guitar out, but that tiny bit of activation energy was just enough friction to ruin the habit entirely.
His brain decided those 20 seconds were just too much work.
Yeah. So he bought a stand, put the guitar in the middle of his living room, and instantly automated his daily practice because the friction was gone.
Visual triggers are incredibly powerful because our brains allocate an enormous amount of processing power to visual stimuli. You want to engineer your physical spaces so they actively coach you toward the right behavior.
So we could basically prep the room for our future selves.
Yes, exactly.
Like a technique I've heard called resetting the room before you go to bed. You close all your browser tabs so you don't wake up to yesterday's chaos.
Right. Clear the digital clutter.
You clear your desk and leave a single blank notebook right on the center of your keyboard. Or, if you want to read more, you literally place the book on top of your pillow.
That's perfect.
When you walk into that room the next day, the physical environment makes the right choice feel completely inevitable.
You've removed the friction. But even with the friction removed, you still need an initiation mechanism.
What do you mean?
Well, how do you actually execute the new behavior without just standing there waiting for the motivation to strike? This is where you leverage the data you gathered from your daily scorecard through a process called habit stacking.
Right, because just having an intention isn't enough.
Far from it. There was this landmark study published in 2001 in the British Journal of Health Psychology.
Okay.
Researchers were trying to figure out how to get people to exercise consistently over a 2-week period. They divided people into groups. One group just tracked their exercise. Another group was given highly persuasive motivational materials about heart disease and the benefits of fitness.
And let me guess, the motivation group failed.
They failed completely. Their exercise rates were virtually identical to the control group because, again, motivation is an emotion and it fades.
Right.
But the third group was asked to formulate a specific plan, writing down exactly when and where they would exercise. That group had a 91% success rate.
That is wild. 91%.
It is.
It's a difference between hoping you'll do something and mechanically programming it into your day.
Exactly.
So the formula for habit stacking is taking an existing rock-solid habit from your daily scorecard, an anchor, and attaching the new behavior directly to it. After I do my current anchor, I will do my new habit.
You've got it.
So if my scorecard says I turn on the coffee maker every single morning at 7 a.m., that's my anchor. The stack becomes, after I press the button on the coffee maker, I will take my daily vitamin.
Perfect example. It creates a seamless neurological transition. You are hijacking the existing neural pathway of the coffee habit to pull the new vitamin habit along with it.
But wait, this is exactly where my ambitious January plans usually crash and burn.
How so?
Taking a vitamin is easy, but what if my goal is a grueling 45-minute HIIT workout? I can't just casually say, after I brush my teeth, I will sweat profusely for 45 minutes.
No, you definitely cannot.
My brain would panic at the sheer energy cost of that stack, and I would probably just start avoiding the bathroom so I didn't have to brush my teeth.
Your brain would absolutely panic because that new habit carries an immense cognitive and physical load, and this is a very dangerous trap people fall into. It's known as stacking fatigue.
Stacking fatigue.
Yeah, the friction of the massive new action completely overwhelms the momentum of your simple anchor. To prevent this, you have to practice radical downsizing.
Radical downsizing.
You have to shrink the new habit until it requires less than 2 minutes of effort to complete.
2 minutes, that's nothing.
It has to be nothing. Instead of stacking a 45-minute workout onto brushing your teeth, your stack is, after I put my toothbrush down, I will do exactly 5 push-ups.
5 push-ups, I wouldn't even break a sweat.
That is exactly the point. It requires near zero activation energy. You are removing the need for willpower entirely.
Okay, I see.
Your only focus in the beginning is not physical transformation, it is behavioral initiation. You are simply trying to cement the neural pathway. You are proving to your basal ganglia that this sequence is safe and easy.
And then you build on it.
Right. Once that 2-minute version is fully automated and securely attached to your morning anchor, then and only then can you gradually expand the volume of the workout.
Okay, let's talk about the messy reality of life, though.
Yeah.
Because it always falls apart eventually.
Oh, inevitably.
We can design our environment perfectly, downsize our habits to 2 minutes, stack them beautifully. But what happens on day 15, when the power goes out, your alarm doesn't go off, the morning is pure chaos, and you miss the entire routine?
The panic sets in.
Because for me, that's usually the day the expensive planner goes right in the trash.
That moment is the ultimate crossroads of habit formation. What you are experiencing there is a well-documented cognitive bias called the abstinence violation effect.
The abstinence violation effect.
Yes, it's a concept originally observed in addiction recovery. When you track a habit, you naturally try to build a perfect streak. But when life throws a chaotic variable at you and you miss a day, the abstinence violation effect triggers a profound sense of shame.
It really does. You feel like a failure.
Your brain illogically concludes that because the perfect streak is broken, the entire project is ruined. You start valuing the artificial metric of the streak more than the actual behavior itself.
Which ties into that massive cultural myth that it takes exactly 21 days to form a habit.
Ah, yes. The 21-day myth.
People think if they just white-knuckle it for 3 weeks, they'll be cured forever.
Yeah.
But there was this fascinating study by health psychology researcher Philippa Lally that completely dismantled this.
It really did.
She tracked people trying to form new habits, and she found it actually takes an average of 66 days for a behavior to become automatic.
66 days.
And for some people, depending on the complexity of the habit, it took up to 254 days.
That's a huge difference from 21 days.
It's huge. But the most important takeaway from her research wasn't the timeline. It was that missing a single day did not erase the neural pathways her subjects were building.
That finding changes everything. A missed day is not a moral failing. It is just a neutral data point. It means your system encountered an unexpected variable. And knowing that the neural pathway remains intact allows you to implement what we call the failure recovery protocol.
Okay, what's that?
It revolves around one non-negotiable boundary, the never miss twice rule. Missing one day is a meaningless blip in the grand scheme of your biology, but missing 2 days in a row,
That's bad.
that is the beginning of a brand new destructive neural pathway.
It's kind of like getting a flat tire on your car.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, if you're driving down the highway and you don't get out of the car, look at the flat tire, and then furiously slash the other 3 tires in a panic just because your perfect drive was ruined.
That would be ridiculous.
You just patch the flat tire and you keep driving.
Exactly. You don't compound the error. To apply that to habits, you create if-then recovery plans in advance, so your prefrontal cortex doesn't have to scramble for a solution during a crisis.
All right, so if I have a reading habit, my recovery plan might be, if an early flight completely disrupts my morning reading stack, then I will read exactly 1 single page of my book before I turn off the hotel lamp that night.
That's perfect.
The volume shrinks to almost nothing, but I
Yeah.
patch the tire. I keep the identity of being a daily reader completely intact.
Yes. And by surviving those messy, imperfect days without quitting, your brain is finally given the long runway it needs to cross into true, lifelong automaticity.
Yeah, it's a dream.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you eventually reach the plateau of automaticity. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a field of incredibly tall, dense grass.
Okay.
The first few weeks of trying to walk through that field, which represents your new habit, it's exhausting. There's immense friction. You are pushing down heavy blades of grass, and as soon as you pass, they spring right back up behind you to block your way.
Yeah.
But if you stubbornly walk that exact same route, day after day, week after week,
Eventually, the grass stops springing back, you trample it down completely, and you wear a permanent, effortless dirt path right into the ground.
precisely, you carve a literal neural pathway. At that point, the resistance completely flips. Because the basal ganglia has taken over, it actually requires more conscious effort and energy to suppress the habit than it does to just execute it.
Like brushing your teeth.
Exactly. It feels weirder to skip brushing your teeth than to just do it.
And once you have a few of those permanent dirt paths, individual habits start linking up to form an interconnected lifestyle ecosystem.
Yes, the ecosystem.
This is where keystone habits come in. Let's say you've automated a 10-minute morning workout. That workout naturally alters your physical and biological state for the rest of the day. You feel energized, your metabolism is engaged, and you feel a sense of pride.
You've set the tone.
Right, so when lunch rolls around, you effortlessly choose a healthy salad over a greasy burger. You didn't have to use your willpower battery to make that lunch choice. The keystone habit of the morning workout created a cascading ripple effect that made the good choice completely natural.
It creates a beautiful memento, but even the best designed ecosystems face existential threats.
Right, because what happens when your entire life flips upside down? Like you have a crazy summer vacation with the kids or a brutal week of back-to-back business travel.
The environment breaks.
Yeah, you aren't at your engineered kitchen, your guitar isn't on its stand, all your anchors are missing. Does the ecosystem just die?
That is why every habit architecture requires a structural safety net, which we call the minimum viable routine.
Minimum viable routine.
Yes. When your environment shifts radically and life becomes overwhelmingly chaotic, you completely abandon the ideal day.
Let's drop it.
You intentionally strip your entire ecosystem down to just one or two core actions that are absolutely non-negotiable, and you scale them down to under 2 minutes.
Oh, like the radical downsizing again.
Exactly. 10 minutes on a hotel treadmill instead of your home gym. Reading 2 pages of a book on the plane. Drinking 1 glass of water before morning coffee.
Just to keep the pulse going.
Right. The minimum viable routine is not about making massive progress during a crisis. It is strictly about preserving your identity and keeping those dirt paths clear when your willpower battery is completely dead.
So what does this all mean? We've covered a lot of ground today, but the through line is incredibly clear to me. You do not have to be a victim of fluctuating motivation anymore.
You really don't.
By stepping back and neutrally auditing the invisible cues driving your behavior, by actively manipulating the friction dials in your physical environment, by downsizing massive goals into 2-minute actions stacked onto rock-solid anchors, and by fiercely refusing to miss twice when life gets messy, you stop relying on hope.
It's mechanical.
You build an automated behavioral machine that actually works for you rather than against you.
And as you begin to build that machine, I want to leave you with a slightly different angle to consider.
What's that?
Think about the shared spaces in your life right now. You've just learned how to manipulate choice architecture for yourself, to make your good choices inevitable and your bad choices difficult.
Right.
But consider the kitchen you share with your family or the break room you share with your coworkers. How might the invisible friction dials and visual cues you are naturally establishing in those spaces be subconsciously programming their habits without them even realizing it?
Wow. I never thought about that.
You aren't just the architect of your own behavior. You might just be the architect of theirs, too.
That is powerful. Start looking at your environment through that lens and start turning the friction dials in your own life today. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. And hey, go dust off that expensive January planner, but this time, leave it open right on top of your keyboard.